Yeah. Some of you already know the deal, but if you're new here, yes, I'm looking to the side because yes, I took notes because there's so much potentially that could be covered, and I want to kind of give this a little bit of a point. The main focus of today's lesson on gospel vocals is this idea of kind of making the voice cut by way of glottal compression. Is this kind of, or some people kind of call them cry sounds. It's the yeah, or the and how we can use that for whether we're doing a I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately, or walk this way, talk like it applies to all that kind of singing. It applies to yes gospel, but yes blues. Right now, Sinners is a very big movie. What's the thing? Somebody take me in your arms tonight. This kind of singing, but it's also we use it with opera. We can use it to add power in general to our singing. So a common mistake I feel like people in general make is conflating technique with aesthetic values or aesthetic principles or style. I teach freedom. And so I want you to be able to throw your voice around like a madman the way I do, or a mad person, it's not, whatever. And so I don't want you to feel restricted. I love the fact that I can do whatever the hell I want. I don't think that's unique to me. If you know my story, then you know I am not a naturally gifted vocalist. I'm someone who had to learn every piece. And it all felt foreign to me. And so the classical part felt weird to learn. The gospel part felt weird to learn. So all of it felt weird for me because none of it came easily. But the beauty for you in my struggle is that I've learned how to systematically develop the voice in a way that can help some of you, especially those of you who are more naturally talented than I. So you'll find it much easier. So we're going to do a lot of focus on what some people might call witch's voice and vomitare. But another way to think of it is glottal compression. I want to take you on a little journey here vocally. So this is going to also kind of act as our warm up. We're going to start with a technique that I call aspirato. It's like a traditional Italian name, but we're just going to gently ha 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 ho 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 he he he. And I want you to do this wherever it's comfortable. This is not meant to be a challenge right now. I want this to feel easy. So please don't feel like you have to like ha ha ha, ha. That's not what this is. I want you to think of like ha ha ha. Like I don't know, sarcastic laughter almost. Ha 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 ha. I want you to notice that with this little H, ha 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 ha, ho 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 ho. These little baby aspirates, aspirato, almost like Miguelito. Like if I had a son named Michael, I'm like Miguelito, like my little Michael. So aspirato is like aspirar, but small. Ha ha ha. Can you feel little taps? Ha ha ha. So I'm not going, oh, oh, I'm not just pushing everything out. There's like an edge. Ho 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 ho. He 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 he. He he he. Now my voice is deep compared to even other men, so most of you won't have the lower notes that I have, but notice I'm just throwing my voice wherever it feels comfortable. Ha 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 ha. He 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 he. This is a gentle onset. This is I mentioned in one of the videos that some of you come here today, but the shine, Jesus, shine, fill this place with your holy power. That's the kind of ha 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 ha. I sometimes call it my Aladdin voice. Riff raff, street rat, I don't buy that. If only they look closer. This is very pretty. Ariana Grande lives here. No, it's not wrong. It's just not strong. Sorry for rhyming, didn't happen by accident. So it's not wrong, it's just not strong. So, and you need this part of your voice. We need to have a light aspect. But the glottal compression is, what if instead of this light touch, ha 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 ha, what if we got more firm in how we pressed our vocal folds together? I want to be clear that we're closing the vocal cords more firmly. See the V in there? That's your vocal cords, not your throat. So I had somebody saying on the YouTube video I did recently, Britney Spears leans on her glottis. No, and no offense to Britney, Louisiana sister, love you girl, but she squeezes her whole throat. I'm asking you to just pinch the glottis. So that's the difference between squeezing this versus squeezing what's inside there. So that's different than I don't want you to squeeze your entire throat. That's something people get wrong. So passionate kind of gospely bluesy styles, people go, oh, is that safe? It's safe if you do it with wisdom. It's unsafe if you do it in a way that is abusive to your instrument. So as you're doing this aspirato, and I do encourage everyone to start here, part of the work is just establishing a felt sense of your vocal folds, that this is not a hollow tube. I've been teaching voice for about 25 years, and what I hear often is, I just feel, Eric, like this should just be a wide open tube. It should just be wide open, it should flow. That's a beautiful idea. That's just in no way, shape, or form the reality of how this works. So there is definitely a closure. There's resistance. Your vocal folds are the gateway to your airway. When you breathe, if you've ever been intubated, like with a surgery, they stick the tube through where? Your vocal cords. You know, so that's the gateway to your airway. If you were to hold your breath, you would close your vocal cords. When you're making sound, your vocal cords close, they vibrate. So we want to feel this, and just to crack it open, because some of you are new here, that's one fold, that's two folds. Sorry for using the middle finger to demonstrate that. but you have you have a flap of muscle. And within your vocal folds, these are the muscles that help your voice create tone. They're on both sides. I just can't take this off for this model. This is glued shut, but this is on both sides. So you have a TA and a CT, a thyroarytenoid muscle, which we consider typically your chest voice, and a CT, cricothyroid, which we consider head voice. Why am I sharing this with you? I know it's like a crash course, and that's so fast that if this is new to you, sorry, it's going to be hard to get it from that. But what I want you to know is the reason why it's so obvious to me that you don't just have the voice you have, it's because unless there's a medical issue that would preclude this from being the case, you have the same muscles I do. And so you can pressure chords in a way that's more TA dominant, or more CT dominant. And so some of you brought up Amy Winehouse. I ain't got the time, and if my daddy thinks I'm fine. That's a stretched out kind of thing. But if we think of Otis Redding or James Brown, and young girls, they do get weary. That's here, that's thicker. So what I want to get into today is how can you feel the different muscles in a way where you can make these sounds, and then when you're done, you can still sing pretty, you know, if you want. So it starts again with feeling the vocal cords, not your throat. So with that context, I'm chatting, you're ha-haing, ho-hoing, hee-heeing, but ha-ha-ha-ha-ha, ho-ho-ho. The goal right now is how gently can I sense that there's a stoppage here? Ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. It's very subtle. Ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. And you may not have my dexterity. If you feel like you're doing ha-ha, ho-ho-ho, please don't be disheartened by that. It's normal to feel like that at the start. The more you do this, you'll gain more control of the breath. But let's get a little firmer. So if that's super light, a lot of gospel singing is compressed. So now we're going to do a stopped aspirate. This kind of comes out as a la la da. And of course, this part is very easily applicable to any style, but ha, ah, ha, oh. So it's like a ha, boom, or a ha, ah, you know, ha, ah, ha, oh, ha, ooh. And you're just playing with this. So I want to be clear. Some of you know how we do here, but if you're new, if there's any part of you that thinks that right now the goal is mastery, please let that go. I don't expect any of you to master this right now. That's just not the way it works. You're not going to master this in 2 hours. This is not about having a knack for it. This is not about having the talent. Again, I entreat thee, please see the actual muscles. You can't fake muscle strength. You can begin improving your coordination today. You can begin improving your awareness today. But there is some strength that can only be accrued by way of repetition plus time, and that can't be faked. So it's like you can have excellent form as a runner, but if you don't run every day, it's probably not going to go too well if you try to do that marathon, you know? So you want to actually build the strength, build the stamina, etc. So you get the idea. So the hut, oh, when you do the hut, and this is really important, we have to know one reason why this kind of work can be so vocally hazardous. And as some of you already know, a lot of my bread and butter is from rehabilitation. I do a lot of vocal rehabilitation of Broadway vocalists, rock singers, and yes, also gospel singers, people who sing hard, also a lot of country singers too, people who sing live and they sing hard. And they're always afraid when they refer to me by their doctors. They're always afraid that I'm going to tell them that they can't sing soulfully. Not at all. You can make any sounds you want as long as you do so in a way that's body connected and that's healthy. So one of the mistakes people make is that anytime we use glottal compression, it demands muscular anchoring of the body. It exerts a sense of gravitational force upon the body, what we call vocal weight. If you make the throat pay for it, you're going to have problems. And that's a reductive way of saying it, but essentially that. But if you can do the huh, huh, and feel a pressure build up around the sternum and solar plexus, that's a very different animal. And so notice we haven't done a scale yet. So I think that singing scales is kind of worthless if you have no awareness of what muscles or muscular mechanisms you need to be recruiting. Because what you exercise gets stronger, and that can also be this, which is not necessarily what we want. So when you do the ha oh or the ha oh ha now paradoxically, there's expansion here, even though I'm exhaling. Ha ha oh. I want you to try this, and everybody's muted, so you can't bother me, you can't bother anyone. See how that's kind of crummy. Because I'm letting it go. We have to learn how to hold on to pressure in a way that's safe and manageable. So this is all just getting used to these sensations. If you don't know how to hold pressure in your body safely, you're going to reach for these muscles in a state of panic, and you might be gifted. And maybe Rebecca will still sound amazing. It just won't feel amazing. And you don't want people to say like, "Oh my God, you sound so good." And you're like, thank you so much." We don't want that. That after a show or after, even if you're singing at a friend's wedding or karaoke, we don't want one night of good singing to result in 3 days of not being able to talk. So we want to feel this. I'm going to show you this, and again, feel free to go crazy because no one can hear you. Ha ah ha oh ha ah. So this is what we call medial compression, and you'll get this really quickly. Think of this as like a reference point. You can also use this for any kind of singing, but it's solid, it's clear. It's kind of like I'm using both sets of muscles kind of equally. So it's not thin, it's not thick, it's kind of right in the middle. So it's very solid. But the key is, and I just want you to experiment with sounds. Think a little bit childlike. Like don't get too like I must be do re mi fa. Don't let yourself go there. Just make sound. But I want you to focus on this concept of, can I be aware of pressure that's built in my chest wall and in my solar plexus? And can I non-violently retain that pressure as I move through my range? So, this would be right, and that would be wrong. And so it's not about just standing up straight. And I know none of you have spoken a word yet because everyone's still muted. But what I hear commonly is, yeah, Eric, stand up straight. No, this cannot be faked. So performative posture is not going to make your voice better. It's a inside out kind of thing. It's a pressure feeling. It's a feeling of like pushing the breath against the wall of the chest from the inside, or against the solar plexus from the inside. Another way to feel it is coughing. Of course, be careful. I mean, like a pitchless cough, but like when you cough, the solar plexus, the very top two abs, like within the costal arch, that punches out. Now, for obvious reasons, we don't want to do too much coughing, but it's a good way to start to feel. And yes, the lower belly does move, but the lower belly does come in, but these top 2 points go out. It's been my experience that most good gospel, rock, blues singers, either through training or through intuition, discover this. And I'm often told, "Oh, Eric, you just shone a spotlight upon something that I've always done intuitively. I just never knew it had a name or anything like that." So one of the keys to singing healthily, and we're going to get a little more fun in a second, but I really want you to know this at the root, because all of this is kind of worthless if you can imitate the sounds, but then are bleeding from the vocal folds later, you know. So that's not that's not going to do it. A lot of times, and I don't think she'd mind me saying this, but like one of my students is Iana Crawley, and she won Sunday Best, which in case you don't know is like Gospel American Idol. So she won her season. That was without me. So she's just a gifted person, but she had to start taking lessons with me because she got to a point where she would sound amazing on Tuesday and then couldn't sing for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so, and even though she's the sweetest person, it was affecting her reputation. So people think, oh, you must be a diva. Because regular people don't know how athletic this is. They just think, oh, you should just have it. Like, you know, Zoe, you should just be able to sing a high note anytime. And they don't realize how muscularly, physically demanding this work can be, especially at a professional level, especially as dynamically as she sings. And so a lot of it was just teaching her how to connect all the amazing stuff she knew how to do and anchor it to healthy, sustainable power sources. So I want to share this with you because most singers don't know this. So your diaphragm is here. Can we all just collectively note how it is not in your belly, but it's in your rib cage, and the 360 quality of it, and how it's big and fat on the sides, and it goes into your back. But fascinatingly, there's one spot that's not covered up by bone, and that is the solar plexus, where your top two abs are. You can see same thing, different sides. This is the only spot of the diaphragm that we can touch manually with ease. Like if you're working with a massage therapist or a myofascial therapist, they can dig their fingers into your rib cage. You would know that was happening. But as far as what you can touch really easily, boom, right there. It's a little hollow. I don't care how strong your abs are. I'm extremely strong here from using this for 8 hours a day, but it's still not bone. If I go up here, that's xiphoid process out, or in sternum bone. But if I go right here, that's gushy. It's flesh. And if I cough, it goes out. This is so important for any kind of passionate singing. But even I talk a lot about musical theater, how I had a student, I am warning you, Javert, there is nothing I won't dare. And it was just loud, but he wasn't straining, it just didn't have any umph, but I am warning you, Javert, there is nothing I won't dare. It's just how we hear passion, conviction, emotion. And so, I know I've been changed, oh Lord. No. I know I've been changed, oh Lord. If this is going forward, it's what Celine Dion knows that Cheryl across the street doesn't. You know, that's, you know, she pounds it, not Celine Dion, but you get the idea. We need this. So I'm lingering on this because it's muy importante. It's super duper duper important. If you don't have a connection, I call this sometimes the I give a damn muscle. And the solar plexus or epigastrium is really more a convergence of muscle. It's where your diaphragm meets the rectus abdominis. Up here is not necessarily a muscle in itself, but it's very nerve rich, and it strongly responds to emotion. When you're speaking with conviction, especially when you're setting a boundary, or if you're just an unedited surprise and joy, like, you know, Mel, oh my God, what are you doing here? I haven't seen you in forever, you know, or like, no, Philip, you can't. I really wanted that sandwich. It was mine, and you ate it, and I'm really upset. Right, you know, this is going to be here. But when we're speaking from a place of like, hey, Margie, I don't know if you want. It's going to shrink. We need to tap into that as human beings. We know when we hear this that the person means business. And a lot of times, if you've ever been singing in a situation where you're being told by your musical director or your friend or your partner, whomever, that they don't feel you. Yes, and it is very much so in line with Jesus Christ Superstar kind of sing. I've actually coached some artists in Broadway performance in that show, and it's very much in that world, in that wheelhouse. But if we don't have this, it's very hard for people to hear the feeling that you're feeling inside. So sometimes, as someone who's coached a billion studio sessions, the artist, the voice is there, the notes are there, but the feeling is not. And it's because if this is not activating, it's very hard for your fellow human beings to believe what you're saying. So we want to awaken that feeling. So We're still warming up and getting acquainted with these feelings. But can you notice? So there's going to be some gray area today. If you followed some of my other programs or my YouTube videos, I often say you shouldn't feel anything up here. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. So there is going to be subtle sensation here. Huh, huh. It's not going to feel like nothing because it isn't nothing. We're firmly, sorry, I keep hearing a voice and I don't know where it is coming from. By the way, I'll just say this. If you do have a question, I'm going to ask that you just put a thing in the chat like over here. That way you don't interrupt as I'm talking. But when we close the chords, how do we know that this is healthy and that we're not doing harm? Two things to think about. One, the solar plexus reflexively responds. Ha, ha, ha. That's very important. If you don't get the response here, if you're getting ha, 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 that means you're absorbing the back pressure up here, and that's not going to be good. So when we close our chords really firmly, there's a pressure that gets sent back. It needs to be absorbed by muscles that can handle it. If you don't feel it up here, ha, ha, there's a problem. Number two is ask yourself, can I blend? From chest voice up into head voice and then back down. So it's going to be, whoops, boom. It's going to be, ha, ah. If you're getting then you're overloading it because your larynx. Oh, hey, Paula, I just saw you. Yeah, everybody moves around on my screen, so I feel in different places. So, yeah, but the larynx has two options, and this is something that great gospel singers really get. And you're going to hear a great gospel singer in a second. And I'm not talking about me. So I'm going to let you hear someone else. So. Great gospel singers, when you hear a gospel singer who sings really hard and they can sound great all the time, you're like, what does she know that I don't? Either through training or intuition, she knows how to tilt the larynx instead of shoving it up. So, the larynx can either tilt or it can go up. So, in other words, when the larynx tilts, the chords stretch and thin. However, when the larynx goes up, the chords have to vibrate harder and faster for that frequency. And we start yelling, and it splats. And some people can get away with it until they can't. But that's how you get things like nodules, polyps, vocal fold hemorrhage. And again, if you're new here, I came into this work because at 14 I had nodules, and at 19 I had a hemorrhage. Not a fun time. So I was not protected by my youth. Teenage dumb did not have any prophylactic effect. I had a lot of serious injuries, and I'm a much better singer now at 41 than I was at 21 through learning this stuff. And I can get power and range that 21-year-old me could never. But it's because I didn't understand there's pressure and release. So when you're practicing this, you want to make sure, oh yeah, sure, Gordon. So, and this is gonna be repeated a lot throughout the session, but it's worth reviewing anyway. So, the larynx in my throat, and by the way, I know this looks like it's the size of my throat. The model is large, but I want to give you guys proper scale here because this can be misleading a bit. I don't want you to think that this is actually the size. So your larynx, here we go. This is what I'm holding in my hand is this golden piece here. So this is your larynx, and within it is your vocal fold. So I know this model is so big, it looks like it's the size of my throat, but it's actually this golden thing you see here. So that's your voice box. No, it's not a literal box, but yeah, your vocal cords dwelleth inside. So as we sing higher, we have two choices. Either the larynx can tilt, or it can go up. And typically, and I see, and I'm still supporting and faking my wrongness, so don't worry, I'm not destroying my voice. But typically you'll know because you'll have to get louder to sing higher, and you'll also feel like you're reaching a ceiling, like, I can't. I think of like the 90s action movies where they get caught in glass or underwater in the ice or something, they're trying to get out and they can't, and so like, and you can't go any further. But if the larynx tilts, I can move. And I'm a bass baritone by nature. And knowing that I can and I said it to say, range is not voice type. A lot of people just don't know how to deal with the thickness of their voice. because we tend to meet, if you have a big voice like I do, and this could be regardless of gender, women have low voices too. So women can have low voices too. So we tend to meet the heaviness and fullness of the voice with more push, and we really need more release. And so one of the things to understanding these techniques is connection here. There's yin and yang. So the yin is that feeling of release and that letting go. Yang is that firm grounding. It can't be all push and you can't be all mush. And I'm rhyming again. I don't know why I got these bars today. Sorry, guys. But yeah, but it can't be like, you know, you're gonna get that, or ooh, you're gonna get really tight. We need both. So, hold on. How can you train your larynx to move it to the front or tune it? I only heard about moving it up and down. Okay, good. The good question. So, blending from chest, and also, I want to get your name right. Is it? I don't even want Tipanan. How do you say it? I don't want to mess it up. My last name, people destroy it. Tipa, is that like a nickname? Okay, cool. Yeah, don't let me destroy your names, guys. So, so yeah, I will not take offense to being corrected. I want to pronounce your name properly. Arseno kicks people's booties. I get Arsenio, Arsenix. The people feel like they have to pronounce every vowel. It's like Arseno. I know it's a lot of vowels. It just equals O, Arseno. So I'm very sensitive to names. And so, yeah. Oh, Margie. Okay, Margie. Okay, yeah, good, good. And if I mess it up at any point, please feel free to correct me. Again, I will not take offense, I swear. So the blending for Tipa, um is the feeling of the no, yeah. So how does it feel when you're doing it right? Two things. The number one thing is you'll be able to blend smoothly from your chest voice to your head voice. And sorry if I'm looking all around because the boxes move one thing. There you are. So now you're to my right. Okay, so if you can feel that blend, from chest voice up the head voice and the back down, that in itself will let you know you're doing the right thing. If you feel like easy signs without having to be a vocal coach, if you have to get louder to sing higher, you're not rocking the larynx. That means your larynx is going up. So if you feel like I have to get louder, then we're not in the right zone. Not that you can't get louder, because we're going to literally do techniques today for power. I'm pro loudness, just from a place that's healthy. If you have to get louder, for example, and everybody can try this for me, this should make most humans go from chest to head, regardless of voice type or gender. All voices are different. We don't all have the same range, but typically, it would help if you could hear that, wouldn't it? Yeah, so but if you're getting this is B flat to B flat in case anybody cares, an octave. Try that a little bit, but can you try to do and I'm gonna give you the first option, Tipa. You don't have to, so no pressure. But would you like to do the octave so we can hear and I can maybe guide you through? And it's okay if the answer is no. I can go with someone else if you don't want to.
I'm fine.
Okay, good, good. So can I hear you do like a ha ha ah?
Huh.
This is actually so good. Thank you for doing this. So right now, Tipa is doing a thing that's very common. She's not straining. She's actually letting go too soon. And so this is a common issue with these kind of vocals. And of course, I don't want you to strain. I'm Joe Health, like health first. I don't want you to strain, but we're skipping from black to white with no shades of gray. This is like a color gradient thing. So I want you to notice this. And you asked the question about feeling, so this might help you. I'm gonna give you two things and we can all do this. Number one, we can feel the resonance move from the mouth a little bit into the nose. I know a lot of us have a fear of nasality. Not trying to put words in your mouth, Tipa, but I'm speaking broadly in general. But the sound energy, we have to let that happen. I'm gonna shut up and let you try it again. Better, it's better. Yeah, yeah. Can you do it again? So you're doing some right things. I want to do one more thing with you since you're here, and thank you again. Because I know it's weird doing it on the spot, but this is actually very helpful. It's better than me just lecturing. So when you first do that huh, huh, and everybody can be practicing along with Tipa, but huh, can you feel that kind of kick out in your body at the sternum or at the solar plexus, like the top two abs, or huh, huh?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Not
I'm
as
gonna
much
give
as
you
yours, but it's
right, right. Totally fine, totally fine. And I often will tell people, I want you to feel the way I look. So it does. It's okay if your body doesn't move as much as mine does, but if you can still feel that feeling. And I know some of you would prefer not to be heaving on stage anyway. So, so yeah, but so it's probably for the best. But as long as you can feel it, that's the most important thing. So I often joke that I have a lot of voice scientist friends, and they don't sing well, nor do they speak well, and it's because they focus on like the literal visible anatomy. And I tell them I teach witchcraft, and the reason why I jokingly say it's not literal witchcraft, but no offense to actual witches, because this is not. But I say that because we do a thing that's kind of nonsensical, and that is we sing into the point of tension, even though we're well aware of where the larynx actually is and the vocal tract and where sound energy goes in formants and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's all well and good. But one thing I grew up hearing a lot of people say, oh, you got to get it from here. You got to get it from here. And I remember thinking like, oh, like this kind of old timey wisdom, but they were onto something. And so I want you to think, and this may not make it perfect, but I want you to think instead of like, but if we can sing into or from the tension in the chest, so I'm thinking perpetually forward as opposed to up and down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And just see what happens if you do it that way.
Huh. Uh,
That's better already to me. Yeah, how does
yeah.
that feel?
Better for me as well.
Good. I think the
Maybe
next
less
couple.
less in my mind and more here.
Yes, 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 yes. I think as we do some of the other exercises, it's going to help to blend that little subtle break that's happening, but I can hear the compression. And so even though there's a flip, I think if you were to sing a line like that, it would have a lot of oomph to it that people would be like, "Whoa, okay, that's nice." So the next part would be you getting used to singing words with that, but you can for now just take a break and just keep practicing. But
Thank
but
you.
yeah, that was really well done. Yeah, thank you. So let's do this. Because we're about to. I want to make sure I get through all the techniques, and then we'll just go into people who might want to actually sing songs and stuff too. So all of that was like preamble or setting the foundation. We just did a light touch with the vocal folds, ha 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 ha, and then we did a firmer touch, ha ha ha, feeling the pressure. But now, and Tipa set me up for this really well, and that is, some people call this witch's voice, some people call it laryngeal tilt, but I call um, this is all glottal compression, but this is thinned out glottal compression. So glottal compression just means that instead of a light touch, ha ha ha, I'm going to get firmer, right? Ha, but what if we thin it out? If we thin it, it can sound like a cry. Parfait, exactly. And so, in like a baby cry, and I'm gonna give you some extra tips with this because if you're like me, a lot of vocal coaches teach this, and it never worked for me. For years, it did not do anything for me. And I'm going to share with you how because like the nay nay nays and nay nay nays, theoretically they work well, but if you're like me, they may not be working for you, and I'll get into why that might be. So yeah, so I feel you, Douglas. I get that because for me, I was like, okay, I feel like everybody keeps saying to do this, and I sound pretty bad. So yeah, so and it didn't feel great to me either, but. We're going to start surface and then we'll go deeper. So the first part is think baby cry. Don't even think singing because that's going to mess you up. Don't try to make it pretty. Just think. If you're familiar with Billie Holiday, strange fruit, blood on the eggs, blood on the the very there, Erica Badu, oh my mama, if you were worried about her, I've been a who I saw. Or if you're familiar with Ari Lennox, you know, all these singers, Shea Butter, you hear this type of singing a lot in gospel music. To lay hands and to discern, to understand God's holy word. It really helps to press the chords together in a way that is very sound dense and muscle light. So you get this a lot of tone, you know, God is a bomb in Gilead. And it sounds like, ooh, so it's cutting through. But the chords are, the larynx is actually tilted. Cry sounds naturally tilt your larynx. So this is for you, Tipa, and for anyone. It should help to kind of glue the chords together as well as you go from chest to head. It is very nasal. Please don't fight that. One of the things that messes people up with this is that they love it when they hear Eva Cassidy do it, you know. They go, oh, that's so amazing. And then when they do it, they go, oh, Eric, I hate it. I hate it. You're gonna have to get over the initial hump. It's a very concentrated, it's like very dense. It's kind of like having too much salt, too much cayenne pepper. When you first hear it, it's like spice concentrate. I sometimes relate this to spice and something being too spicy. Know that ultimately as an artist, you can choose how much. I have like what I call this is also called twang sometimes, a lot of times actually. Also called the twangometer. You can control how much you add. You can add just a little bit, you know. It's like the tide always falling and rising. If you're Disney belting, you might use a little bit. If you're gospel belting, like the tide always, you would use more. But here's the thing with twang, it's very safe. It sounds like you're doing so much. There would be no Aretha Franklin singing without twang. There would be no Patti LaBelle. There'd be no Eva Cassidy or Ava Cassidy. There would be no Celine Dion. There's a lot of twang. Her Quebecois naturally brings her to that place in a lot of ways. If you're Filipino, if you speak Tagalog, the upang baywat they go there a lot. American English doesn't so much, and so if you don't grow up with it culturally, then you probably, there are regions where people have. If you ever been to, hey man, I remember my first time going to Boston, I was like, oh wow, this is real. Oh God. I didn't know people really talk like that. But like, get in the car. I'm like, oh dear, this is not TV. You guys really do this. Okay. So there are parts of the country where people go there. It's just that where I'm from, people are more inclined to speak like lower and kind of, yeah, I don't really know you, Lord, like talking about it. Like I don't really, it's more like that. So it's not really in the front. So when you're playing with twang, though, here's a tool, two things that I think can help you out. Twang tends to tighten the throat. And so remember what I said, we want the chords to come together. We don't want to squeeze all of the neck. And so that's the tricky part, because twang for most people will incite you to clench your entire throat. I know it did for me. So here are a couple of things that might help. The first one is pronouncing a bright ah, as in the word cat. So if you think cat, ah, 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 and then if we make it staccato, ah, 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 it's gonna help you to naturally find, it's very harsh sonically, it shouldn't be muscularly harsh, it shouldn't hurt. But like, I'll give you this, let's do this. Sorry, playing with one finger is hard. And so it's staccato. If this is too high or too low, do the same melody in a part of your range that makes sense for you. I don't know everybody's voices, obviously, because I don't know all of you personally. But Stephen, yes, and you're kind of beating me to the point, so I'm going to kind of halfway ignore your question because I'm about to answer it in more detail. But yes, it is vocal fry-ish. So, and let me just go there. So, I know it gets a bad rap, but I love vocal fry. Vocal fry is a gift from the gods. It's a gift. The universe has blessed us with the seed sensor voice. Vocal fry gets a lot of hate, and most of it is just misogyny. To be honest, doctors are not exempt from misogynistic thinking. A lot of my male students, when we speak with vocal fry, studies show that when men use vocal fry, we're seen as smarter, more capable of leadership, maybe more attractive. But when women use vocal fry, you're just seen as annoying, and we hate that. So it's like, don't. But when people say, but my doctor said it will damage your voice, please show me that study because I read a lot and I have not seen it. And so you won't find it because it doesn't exist. The idea is that women are annoying when they speak this way. Ironically, women are also seen as smarter when they speak this way, but we want to have sex with you less. So it's just a thing. So it's messed up, and I'm laughing about it. I'm not saying this is good, but don't be thrown off when if you hear someone say vocal fry is bad. The only negative I will say, vocal fry can be bad if you are squeezing your throat. But if you can find ah, if you can add a little bit of a grunt ah, ah, that activates this, the solar plexus and sternum, if you can get some, especially in the solar plexus, because this is the thing, and I'm talking, you're playing with the fry. The reason why I'm so confident that vocal fry won't injure you, again, I'm from New Orleans. On Bourbon Street, the girl who speaks in perpetual vocal fry, Shoshana from LSU, when she's, oh my God, like, no, yeah, stupid Franklin, yeah. You can hear her from all the way across the bar. Her voice is so strong. She's a communications major. She's not a singer. Her voice is strong as hell. The people who speak with vocal fry all the time, their voices are not damaged. Their voices are not weak because vocal fry itself, part of the reason why I think vocal fry is such a great tool, if you can hear vocal fry, it's a bit of a chord closure paradox. It's both thick and loose. Typically, when we're singing in a thick, fold place, there's tension. Vocal fry, however, there's a rippling of the folds, so it helps you to find thickness with inner edge function. By design, it's both strong and released. So at a vocal fold level, if you can hear the pulses, as it's called in literature, I call them crackles, but they're often called pulses. I think my word's better, but whatever. But they call pulses or crackles. If you can hear those pulses or crackles, you might even notice some of you, because I know you, some of you sing with us already. You just don't know that you're doing it. But I only meant to love you, and you know it, baby. Why could you? We kind of we do a fry onset. For some of you, Tipa, whomever, this can be a big help too in finding. It'll help you find that place. It'll grant you a soft entry. It's both firm and released. So by design, if you can hear the crackles, you're probably not hurting your vocal folds, but you could be tightening your throat. So to make sure you're not, make sure you can feel some kind of response in the solar plexus and the sternum. And for those of you who know how to use your back muscles, even though I'm not going to emphasize that as much in today's class, we're going to get into it a little bit, then if you can also engage those back muscles a bit, that would be an extra help for sure. But anytime we use glottal compression, the solar plexus and sternum need to reflexively, need to be reflexively activated. My advice sounds like most of, so I'm sure you meant voice. Okay, yeah. So we want it to grow from vocal fry into a full tone. So we don't want to stay in vocal fry, but we want to grow from there. So one of the things is like let it go into a full tone. Just don't let it stay in that place. I want to play this clip for you before we do the next part. Well, no, there's one more thing I forgot. Okay, so inner smile. This is the thing that might change everything for some of you guys too. So when we get this kind of whiny cry sound, we have to have adequate throat space. If you don't have adequate throat space, you will sound crazy. For those of you who've heard me reference this in every class, I'm sorry, I'm going to reference it again. But when Fergie sang the national anthem, what was it, does that star spangled banner? I felt so bad for her. I think she has an incredible instrument. No, that wasn't an incredible performance, but I think she was a good student to a bad teacher. A lot of teachers just teach, but if she would have had the A, I'm going to show you what I mean. We're going to do an NG chant. And so we're going to go from NG to A. I know we kind of touched on this with Paula in your session. If NG is a naturally closed throat, like the word sing, it's a therapeutically closed throat. So it's not closed like this, but it's closed in the back. If we oscillate between NG and A, as in grape, then no lip movement, no jaw movement, but I know I look crazy, but just stay with me here. You should feel that instead of going A, instead of your mouth widening and smiling, the back of your throat should want to smile. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner wave? It's a much richer sound. Land on the free, free, yeah. If you have that space, it softens, it mellows out the harshness, it brings some balance. And so but we need to find that feeling in the throat. And I recommend starting off on like a lower, comfortable speaking voice note. It's about memorizing a feeling. I want to be crystal clear. The exercise itself is not the magic. The exercise is a guide. The magical outcome is the sensation of the back walls of your throat stretching and widening. So it's very possible to go and feel nothing. So you have to show up, you have to bring all of your attention and awareness to your throat space and give it permission to move. But if you insist on the purity of an A sound, but without utilizing your lips or jaw, your tongue can move. You're going to feel yourself kind of smiling from ear hole to ear hole in the back of your throat. That's what we want. And this is just a good kind of NG chant to do at any point. Make it a fidget spinner that lives within. If someone is nearby, you might have to warn them about what you're doing because it can sound really crazy. But I do this in public all the time. If there's ambient background noise, people might think I look a little strange, but I'm not bothering anybody. It's not particularly loud. It's a muscle thing. So I'm not doing this to challenge my range in the moment. I'm just trying to feel that space. Depending on what languages you grew up speaking, I know American English is kind of deficient in vitamin A. We typically are very more dominant, like speaking from this place. The way I'm speaking now, this is considered kind of like an ideal way to speak at this, like this. But we need more, again, it's regional because there are parts of this country where people definitely have A. There are definitely parts that they do. But I find like Vietnamese, Tagalog, a lot of Asian languages have this shape more than we do. But you want to just awaken it. Okay, gotcha, Emery. So just keep tuning in, and some of it you'll have to see in the recording. But yeah, we're gonna keep going into Fry. But I can tell you this real quick for the sake of review for everybody. Fry should activate the solar plexus. So one of my gripes of the vocal coaches who do teach Fry, they only teach it from a place of. It can be a relaxing technique and could be a good cool down, but it should activate. It's an on-ramp to Witch's voice. It's also an on-ramp to vomitare, which we're going to go over in a second as well, because this is just one form of glottal compression. But and if we have that plus the A throat shape, so now I get this big sound with minimal effort. So my chords are firm, throat is open, I'm grounded here, and I get all of that working together. We're going to exercise it in a second, but first, I'm going to play you a brief clip that I hope won't get this thing flagged for copyright infringement. But so this is not a church that I've attended in my life, but I chose this because it's a regular service, and it's really indicative, I think, of like what I think we can all learn from really good gospel singers. So I'm going to play this and I'm going to stop it at a few points to point some stuff out. I want you to notice how she has no microphone and she's just singing. But first, can you even hear it? Let me play it. Let's see. Oh, I know I've been trained. You know the end. Help me sing it, God. That's the twang. She's also using some Bomidata. We're going to get into that in a second, more thick. You know, she's getting to the back of the folds. We're going to get into that in a second too. But this is just someone demonstrating it who's not me. And so I want you to hear someone else do it. And she's just really freaking good. But I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. And she's going to do even more of the twangy stuff. Let me see. So I love that part because she's singing really high, but the focus lets her stretch. So, and I don't have her range, so I'm not even going to embarrass myself. But my point is, when she goes up, when she's up there, the tone thins, but it still cuts. So what I want you to know is, part of what she's doing so masterfully, she's not shoving sound out. I'm sure for her, she could probably do that for a few hours and be okay. It's very focused. So the sound energy is dense and it cuts through. And the reason why I often liken this into opera, again, for those of you who don't know me well yet, I was a professional opera singer for several years. I was 19 when I got my first professional booking and still had a lot to learn. I was very physically strong and I tried to muscle my way through the orchestra. And Erlyn Vincent, an extremely accomplished soprano down in New Orleans, she helped me from killing myself. And so she was like, oh no, baby, no, that's not gonna work. And she said, and showed me to go from pressure to focus. And she let me know, Eric, physics, not on your side if you think you're gonna just decibel, brute force your way over this orchestra full of man-made instruments into a crowd of people wearing winter overcoats, absorbing all the sound energy. You cannot overpower them with your one little body. You can, however, cut through and pierce through the veil. Erlyn Vincent was a senior at the time with a head full of white hair, and she was singing circles around everyone. And I didn't understand it because I was like, I should be stronger than you. Like I've got testosterone and youth on my side. I have muscle. Why are you making me feel so weak? Because she was just a lot smarter than I was. She was focusing her voice like a knife to cut, and I was swinging it like a bat trying to hit a piñata. And she was just surgically cutting through the air. And the illusion she casted was that of this huge voluminous sound. But she was focused on the nucleus, this kind of pinprick. And so what I want you to know, when you're playing with Witch's voice, when I jokingly talk about us being the witches of the magicians, we have to know that there's not really a quarter in little Timmy's ear. We have to know that. Let the crowd ooh and ah when we go, woo, it's a magic trick. We have to know how the trick is done. We have to know that you're not really sawing the woman in half. We have to know how it's done. Let the crowd be marveled. Let the crowd marvel at what we do. But when we're doing these sounds, my body. I'm not working hard. I'm not even standing well. Please don't copy this posture. But it's not about brute force. I'm focusing the sound. It's very dense, as opposed to we don't need to push. We don't need to push air. We need to find the point. Vocal fry helps you to find the knife's edge. Nothing changed. You know, we have that. You can hear it in Prince, the R&B singer. You can hear it in D'Angelo. I always do the I just wanna be your man. We can always hear this kind of We hear it in Earth, Wind, and Fire. We always hear these tones. It should be some of your easiest singing. It's a manipulation of sound energy. It's not a huge muscle force. But I want to say this before we get into a thing where I'm going to ask for another volunteer. Part of the work I find is mental. I rarely encounter someone who has a physical limitation with this. A lot of times people are so hung up on the initial harshness. So give yourself permission to put the clay on the table before you worry about shaping it. A lot of times people stop themselves because when they first hear themselves accessing the sound, even if they do so very well, they go, ooh, I don't like it. It doesn't sound like that lady on the video is different because in the beginning, it can sound kind of amorphous and just kind of ham-fisted and blunt and just like, oh, you know. But you got to get the clay on the table before we can start shaping it. So don't preemptively stop yourself. Just give yourself permission to sound kind of crazy or horrible at first. You might sound really harsh or abrasive or strident. That's fine as long as it doesn't hurt, as long as you don't feel physically bad. But let yourself, if your ego takes a bruising, we can survive that. We can manage that. Like let the pride hurt, just don't hurt your actual throat. So I want to give this to you. This is advanced, but there's no getting around this. So one of the best things I think you can do. Let me use the same scale since we're familiar with it. Anyway, I'm gonna do a staccato fry. And Stephen, you were right. This does have a fryish onset. I want you to notice I'm not going. I'm not doing a coup de grace. I'm not getting right on the pitch. I know if you're a fellow vocal coach or voice teacher, this is normally anathema for us to scoop into a note. But for vocal fry, we scoop, and we scoop deliberately because the scoop we use fry. Fry is technically a function of chest voice, and we can use fry to inform the upper register. So uh, 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 so it helps to kind of build that bridge, going even back to Tipa's initial question. So we can really sneak stuff in. But uh, 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 and it thins as it goes up. It's not powerful. And so I don't know how it's coming across through Zoom. If it sounds powerful, then that's the illusion, but it should kind of almost thin like taffy or bubblegum. We want wiry, we want creaky door. So I shouldn't say, oh, Trina, your voice is so beautiful. This is not the time to hear the beauty of anyone's voice. I want squeaky. Think like you're just imitating a household object or like you're being like Robin Williams, like just cartoon voices. Because again, I want to warn you, if you're too worried about like sounding good right away, you're probably going to block the magic because you're going to start trying to do stuff to mess with it. But Steven, you had a question? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Are you taking somebody through the scale with the vocal fry, or that's everybody?
Well, everybody can do it, but I would
Okay.
like a volunteer. Are you
Oh,
volunteering?
yes, because I need help with that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go a little bit lower to start. So I just went right to the kind of the middle to get most people, but for you, I'm gonna go a little bit lower. So
Open my mouth, right?
what was that?
Open my mouth when I do it, not
Yes,
close mouth.
please. I generally prefer people do this on an M, but through video chat, it helps if I can hear the
You want to see my face?
Okay, you're getting really good squeak. I would just say this. Can you get more uh, like the ripple as you enter? You know what I mean? Because you're going to the squeak a smidge too fast. Your squeak is good. The squeak, we want that. Don't lose that. But can we enter uh, uh, again? So thank you. This is really helpful. So your pitch is good, your registers are good, but notice at the top, everybody, Steven's kind of doing a he's kind of going right to the note, which is not automatically bad, especially if you were just singing. But for this exercise, I really want you to think, can you ramp into it a little bit more from a fry place?
Good. No, that's wrong.
And that's perfectly fine. You're on the right track. I just want you to soften your onsets. My concern would be
Soft.
that you're gonna build excess tension in your throat, and I don't want that because
Okay.
we're gonna strengthen the vocal
Yeah.
fold muscles, but we're gonna
So more
block
in
the
the chest.
resonance.
You said something about feeling like a grunt inside earlier. So let me see.
Now, this is the thing. I can hear that that sounds more supported. I do think you're more connected here, but we're still missing the ah, 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 ah. Can you try it with closed lips? Okay, I can hear you well. The M is working better for you, which for the record, I would prefer everybody doing M.
Okay.
It's just that I can actually hear you very clearly. So normally if I ask you to open your mouth, it's so I can just hear you better through Zoom. But yeah, I think that works for you. Can we do this? Let's skip. Now we've lost some of the connection.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't even have to see
Okay.
you. I can hear it. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Stephen. So this is perfect because Stephen is a example of a talented, skilled person who's gonna have to learn how to balance a whole bunch of crap. So we have to have the onset, we have to get the squeak, and we have to connect. So sometimes when I give you one directive, we lose the other stuff. So remember, the knee bone connects to the shin bone. So for the record, I want to be really clear. If Stephen just continues to practice exactly as he's doing, your vocal cords will literally get stronger. Squeaky tones improve the posture memory of the vocal folds and strengthen the intralaryngeal muscles, particularly the cricothyroid. It will strengthen your voice. The only problem is if it simultaneously strengthens the constrictor muscles, we can develop a harshness and a kind of a unwanted nasality over time. And that's what I think happens to people like Fergie. I can also hear it in a lot of pop stars like, I don't know all the individual Jonas Brothers names, but there's one of the Jonas Brothers who was in Les Mis. And I was like, I can hear that you were trained in that way. It's very popular. It's a very Seth Riggsian kind of approach where it's just like just the larynx and just even if you squeeze. But if you can just consistently connect it to this, I think you're gonna really like the tone that results. Can we try one more thing, Stephen, before I let you go? Can you try this for me?
Yeah.
Can we do I'm not trying to sound pretty in the slightest, so please don't try to sound pretty either. Just let it be witchy.
No.
And similar to what I said about who was that? Was that Tipa? We're letting go. So notice a lot of times people don't swing and let go.
I definitely did, yeah.
Yeah. So
so keep it fry. Okay.
Yeah. I want you to work on it. Everybody can try this where you are, but
okay.
I'm gonna shut up so you can focus for a second. And I want to point this out. So Stephen is collapsing. Would you hear? So we have to. Just have to go forward. So
you want me to do the note or?
Yeah, I want you to sustain that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to sustain the first one. So I mean the fourth one.
The fourth.
Better. Yes. How does it feel so far?
It feels good. You know what I'm doing? I'm doing this.
Good. Yes. Yes.
So squeaky to avoid to note?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that could so on the twangometer, you're at a light twang. I think it could be twangy-er, but we're gonna move on for the sake of time. But that's a good place. Yeah, I want you to keep playing with it. And what I want everybody to get out of this, you can play with this at any point in your range. Ah, 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 ah. Ah, 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 ah. It's not about a bunch of lung power. It's not a bunch of ab power. This is a very vocal fold focused technique. We're just grounded here. And if you find that the tone is collapsing, you're probably not continuing to ah, ah. And despite how it may seem, I'm not just moving my body, it's the muscle doing it. Ah, my lower belly comes in, upper abs go forward. Ah, ah, whatever this is gonna go. So, but it should make the voice feel really wiry and free. This is a very thinned out vocal fold coordination. It's a very safe form of glottal compression. One of the things I talk about a lot, when you hear a female gospel vocalist especially, there are males who do it too, but especially female vocalists, and you're like, oh my God, she's stratospherically high and it's so strong. What is she doing? She's doing this, you know? So, and you're gonna always hear this kind of tonal quality, especially in contemporary gospel. You know, it's gonna be very like wiry. It's not gonna be a lot of openness, even though there are singers who are more open, but for sure. But this is just a commonly used technique. I want to get into the last part of the techniques I'm teaching today, and that is what we sometimes call vomitare in the traditional like bel canto school. Sometimes it's also known as cry or groan. This one's more of a grown man cry, I call it, or an adult cry. It's also sometimes called the moan groan kind of thing. So, it's kind of like, again, yin and yang, thinking masculine and feminine. The witch's voice is more the feminine. I don't mean because of witch, but I mean it's more released. So, it's thinned out. Chill, my body. But the vomitare is more of a thickened. Yeah! This is where squalling comes from. It involves not only, so witch's voice, I know I've been changed. That's the thinning muscle, that's the stretching muscle, the CT. Vomitare, that's the TA. But sometimes you'll hear a texture. So, and that's coming from the cartilage in the back. So, instead of a more classical tone, I can get a trouble been dog in my soul since. That's, you're hearing cartilage in the back. And so it sounds like I'm just tearing my vocal cords apart, but trust me, I'm not. It's okay. And so, but at points, you hear the woman that I showed you in the clip masterfully went between thin and thick fold coordination. So, and then, yeah! You can hear it. One is more dense, one has more depth, and it comes from like the back. Yes. It's very Teddy Pendergrass. Teddy was in a more of a thick fold. Yes, 100%. So you can think Aretha Franklin thin. Yeah, make me feel. And Teddy Pendergrass, who's even more recently, I talk about him sometimes, Anthony Hamilton. You'll hear him in that place. I can't stay away from you too long. It's a kind of traditional bluesy sound, but Teddy is definitely a great example. So even sometimes James Brown, try me, and so you can hear that kind of quality in the voice. And so it's thanks, Paul. I'm gonna take that as take that as a compliment. But I grew up on that. It's funny. My dad was a pastor, but he played probably more James Brown than he did gospel music. But why is the what is the focus in the male cry? Because so this is a good question. Personally, and yes, Leon Bridges, all these soulful people, I think vomitare is one of the hardest techniques to teach, because muscularly, it's not there are definitely heavier tones, and if you're a rock vocalist, you know, there are all kind of screams, and there's false chord screams, and blah, 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 blah. But as far as what I teach, I kind of do the more cartilagey based thickness, and it's the thickest coordination I teach. Therefore, it's the heaviest. So it's like it's the deadlift. It's really heavy. So that in itself creates a problem because we have to learn how to manage a lot of pressure, and I'm going to help you feel that in a second. But it starts with, just to answer your question and get to the point, it starts with a groan. If you think of like a, uh, 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 and I always joke that whenever I'm teaching a lesson, if the person's family, husband, wife, whatever, comes in on the wrong part of the lesson, it's just really strange. I'm like, please explain to loved ones what we're doing, but because it's a very odd sound. But notice this: when I make this sound, and I am exhaling, uh, 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 it's stimulating a paradoxical response. Now my low abs come in, uh, but this goes out, uh. Also, this is just strengthening for everyone. I have students who are jazzy, like lullaby of birdland, that's what I always hear when you sigh, never in my wordland. Even for them, we still we lift heavy a little bit. It just helps with the overall strength of your voice and your respiratory muscles. It's your vocal folds act as a form of resistance for your respiratory muscles. It's one of the reasons why in the peak of the pandemic, a lot of doctors were saying, like, sing. They were opera singers doing vocal classes through Zoom. It was one of the worst things to do in person. But online, singing was helping people where mainstream Western medicine was failing. And it's because your vocal folds act as a form of resistance, so you get that positive expiratory pressure, and so it's really strengthening if you do it in a healthy way, because you can also, and that's not going to help anybody. So again, to Stephen's remark, vocal fry is like the little seedling of all types of compression. You'll notice I'm having this little vocal fry in every bite. So I just like vocal fry because it helps me to enter the most intralaryngeal part. It helps me to get to the core without because typically I find, to put it this way, it's so easy to just squeeze your whole throat. Like I said in the beginning, it's for those of you who came a little later, it's so easy to squeeze here instead of within. We want the of the vocal. They don't move because this is plastic, but your real life vocal cords, they move. They don't just stay like that. But we don't want to go and squeeze the throat. We want to pinch the cords, the glottis. And so vocal fry, if we use that as an on-ramp, it can guide us toward thin or thick. And that's up for us to choose, depending on our skill and our awareness, etc. But it's more like a groan. I think of like a punch to the gut. You're gonna also feel your back muscles awaken. If you make an F sound as in Frank, but keep your throat relaxed, you should feel your back muscles flex. Or if you make a V as in victory, I don't mean va, but I mean close, like you should feel your back muscles flex. Vomitare requires more back muscle action as well. There's a difference in intensity, tonometer, and the difference in which is voice one more time, just amount of glottal compression or resonance. So the difference is coordination. Which's voice is more cricothyroid dominant. Vomitare is more thyroidnoid dominant. So, and like I talked about this a while back, I'm going to tell you this quick story. Oh, we have time. So I'm going to say this. Some of you already know this, but I have, hopefully I can get on the podcast for the, I have a bunch of new episodes coming out where I'm interviewing some of my clients, and I think you guys are going to really love it. But a few years ago, I worked with an artist who was a 2-time Grammy Award-winning jazz vocalist, and she's known for her incredibly pliant voice, What is all this talk about loving me, my sweet? I am not afraid, not anymore, not like before. Won't you understand me? She can move all around, right? She went in for a surgery, unrelated to vocal stuff. It was just a routine surgery. They intubated her. Her throat closed at one point. They had to forcefully intubate her, and they bashed her vocal cords. This happens all the time. It's just a lot of people aren't professional singers, so they don't care as much. She had vocal fold paresis, but a temporary paralysis of her cricothyroid muscle. Well, I said temporary because we fixed it, but it lasted for 2 years before she came to me. And so I use her as a case study when I train coaches, because often they'll say, okay, well, because people often call the cricothyroid muscle the head voice muscle. And so my students will say, oh, well, she didn't have her head voice muscle, but she still had her chest voice. She had nothing. All range is formed by the perpetual antagonism between head voice and chest voice. So we can have head voice dominance, or chest voice dominance, but you are never in just one place or another. So if I'm doing la la, that's chest voice dominant, but this head voice has to help. If I'm doing staying alive, that's head voice dominant, but I need this to work too. If you have one that's offline, you don't have range. So when it comes to glottal compression is a skillful, firm adduction of the folds, but it can be head voice dominant, which we call witch's voice, or it can be chest voice dominant, which we call vomitare. And of course, there's so much gray area in between. I'm just giving you these terms for the sake of having something that we can metabolize. But there's so many, just like there's a twangometer, there's a vomitariometer, there's a groanometer, I don't know. But there's degrees. There are degrees. So it's not like it's just one pinpoint place, how much you use. Because most male opera singers use vomitare to some degree, especially if you're a tenor. You kind of have to if you want to get some of those sounds and notes. They may not start to vibrate the interarytenoid cartilages because that would be into like a rockish place. But that's why if you notice certain singers like Steve Perry of Journey or Freddie Mercury, it's not hard to imagine them singing operatic tenor work because the coordination is just not that different. It's just like it's a matter of degree, essentially, But with that being said, so yeah, so a big part to answer. Wait, first, sorry, Miss Rebecca's. No, wait, I missed a few. Hold on, let me catch up. So their difference, the chorus didn't doing. Okay, yeah, it's normal to feel like there's a bit of a workout if you get unwanted. A couple signs that you might be on the wrong track. If you're getting unwanted dysphonia, if you're getting huskiness or hoarseness, then you might be doing something a little too far. If something hurts, then you're on the wrong track. But there can be a subtle achiness when you're first exercising, and this is like the gray area because we're doing glottal compression. If we were singing in just a more relaxed way, I would say feel nothing. But there can be some sensation of, ooh, this was a bit of a workout when first doing this. And also sometimes we just go too far. And so, but if you feel a subtle achiness, then just relax and take a break if it feels like it's too much. We don't want to overdo it, but yeah, someone wasn't fond of Renee Fleming's croaking. Yeah, about Renee Fleming. She does. Sometimes she'll do that. And I feel like she it's so funny she said that. I talk about this a lot actually. You could hear it quite a bit. She does a rendition of O Mio Bambino Caro, you could hear yeah. And I was shocked, but there are certain things she does to add character to her voice, just like she overly darkens and covers her tone to a degree that's not quite her natural true voice. But I know American sopranos often have a reputation for sounding kind of the same, and so I know because there's a lot of so she's trying to do stuff, and she has a lot of jazz influence. But yeah, that's funny that you would notice that. But for Tipa's comment, a big part of what makes it sound harsh and ugly versus sonorous and beautiful is the throat space. So if we can get, I think a lot of it, and we went through this with Paula last time, but I'll give you an example. And we can all try this, but so if we do A, I'm just doing A. Let's say I want if I just that space makes it a little more pleasurable than we don't want it to be squeezed, and so there's a thing I like to do, E-A-A, to kind of sweep through the resonance. So the key is this. We use NG as kind of a Trojan horse to sneak in. NG is so gentle, it's so refining, it's so sneaky. It should feel really kind of effortless. But once I'm here, can you hear how the resonance is kind of shifting as I move from E to A to A? It's just something to explore to get some plasticity in the pharyngeal space so that a lot of times the lack of beauty or kind of warmth to the tone, even these tones are intentionally kind of harsh, but when they sound just like when there's a visceral kind of repulsion to them, it's typically because the throat space, the pharyngeal space is closed down. And so we're not doing an operatic, super forcefully lifted soft palate, but we do want there to be pharyngeal plasticity, meaning that the pharynx can respond to the vowel intent. So like where is it? I don't remember exactly. Is it there? But I think of Steven Tyler a lot, like crazy, crazy. How it's up there, and if you're like crazy, that's gonna kind of that's not good. But if I have space, there's a freedom there. Especially with Broadway belts. What's it? And I know it's only in my mind that I'm talking to myself and not to him. I hear that a lot. But if we that I'm talking to myself and not to him. It's gonna open it up. And if I was a woman, it would sound way more natural, but I'm a dude, so it's gonna be a little screechy. But the space makes it. So you want that space. If you can find that space and learn to feel the feeling, it's not even so much something you force to happen, but something you learn to allow, because your body wants to do it. It's just that we typically preemptively run to this for support or for a sense of anchoring or for grounding, and that kind of shuts everything else down. When we can learn to allow and learn portmanteau together, sorry. When we can learn to allow this to ground us, and that it just works so much better. But let's do this. Thank you. I'm so glad that worked, Rebecca. I'm so glad. Thank you for telling me, because that's great. And good. I'm glad, Tifa. I'm glad that it worked, because sometimes I'm trying to squeeze it in. Like, I hope this makes sense, because I'm trying to like shove in or shoehorn in things that probably would take like several lessons in one-on-one to say like yeah, just do this. Like, so everything I'm talking about in this class, please, I do not mean to imply that it should happen immediately. You might notice an immediate difference, but you're gonna have to work it for days, weeks, months, some cases years, depending on what exactly it is. But yeah, so let's do this. I'm gonna give you this exercise, one of my favorite range extenders, and we're gonna work it together, and then I'm gonna open it up for people to volunteer. I actually got through a lot, I'm surprised. But two things I forgot. Vomitare. With vomitare, I really want you to practice it as much as you can. If you have a medical issue that precludes you from doing this, then of course use your common sense. I don't know everybody's history. If you can stand, I do encourage you to stand. Normally, I don't care. I'm a pro sitting vocal coach. I don't care if you sit normally. But for vomitare, I do prefer that you stand. I'm going to explain why. Vomitare is heavy. It's you using your voice at its heaviest, and you're building up an incredible amount of internal pressure. And so we need the body to be able to handle that, to absorb that back pressure. So what that means is when you groan, solar plexus, yes. Sternum, yes. There's a sense of forward pressure at the chest. There's a lifting in the belly. But I also want you to notice two other parts that I haven't mentioned as much this session. One is your back muscles. Again, you can F or V to feel them. Your back muscles, the biggest muscle of your upper body, the latissimus dorsi, we really want to feel those lats awaken. Let me do this. Oh, I thought I had this ready to go, sorry. We really want to feel those back muscles. Some people call them the wings. You want to feel your back muscles kind of flex. It kind of can make the rib cage flare out a bit, but the back muscles do so much to hold back the excess breath pressure to protect us. And then we also want to feel the glutes and hamstrings activate if we can. And so sometimes, here we go. Let's do this. Bump, bump. Okay, so I drew this expressionistic-y kind of depiction because I wanted people to see how I envision it. The lats are actually a bit larger than this, but I want you to think of these kind of lobes, like these wings. We're trying to activate them on like it's in the meat of your back and they wrap around to the sides of the body. And so we really want this. Some people call it the cobra's hood. If you're I think some of you are classically trained. I get that from some of the things you said. The cobra back or the cobra's hood, there's a sense of it flaring backward. This is a more medical drawing depiction of your lats, or one half of them. So you want to feel this part of you, but it kind of flares out and back. And you can feel when you and if I kind of do a subtle knee bend, I can kind of feel my glutes and hamstrings and hips kicking a little bit. We need this grounding. I know people make fun of Cynthia for rather than sing that over and over again, but it's one of her secrets to being able to belt so well. You'll see Elvis doing this in past videos, Christina Aguilera, Celine Dion, James Brown, Sam Cooke. Like, you'll see, it's just a normal thing. You probably will see Teddy Pendergrass doing it. I don't have a lot of memory of watching the live videos, but it's just normal to see a singer kind of like, kind of getting that strength from there. Your diaphragm is all the way up here, but the muscles of your pelvis, glutes, and hamstrings help to anchor that. And so it's not about forcing with all your might. We just want some sense of connection, and it's really gonna help to beef things up. So when you're doing your vomitare, we wanna make sure we can feel the body, that's number one, and we wanna make sure that we can blend. Because again, a big part of safety, if we can blend, then we know the larynx can tilt and be free. If you're getting if it's going up, if you feel like you're getting louder and louder and it's cracking, then you are in the danger zone. So we don't want to be in the danger zone. We want to be in a safe space. And don't be afraid to just pull back on the effort at first. So I'm demonstrating really hard because I do this every day. It's my full-time job. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. But I do this every day. If you're someone who's not used to making these tones, and again, I bring this up. Some people bristle when you talk about culture. This is just my lived experience. But when I first started singing, I'm Black. I know everybody's surprised. No, I'm Black. And so I grew up hearing gospel music, but I didn't sing it. And I just wasn't a singer. And when my dad took over Gentilly Baptist Church on Franklin Avenue, New Orleans, my early singing in church was, "Shine, Jesus, shine, fill this place with your holy." There was that. And in letters of crimson, God wrote his love on a hillside so long, long ago. And it was that kind of singing. So it's very like musical theater-ish. I didn't start off gospel-y singing. And so, and I've talked about this in videos before. My friends in college would make fun of me because they're like, you sing like a white boy. And it was like, haha. And some of them were white telling me this. They were telling me, and they were like, some of these people telling me this were white people, which is kind of funny. But, because it was like, I sing blacker than you, Eric. But what they meant was, even though we were all young and being super all teenagers, and then, it's just inappropriate talk. But they were right in the sense that I was not familiar with these coordinations. And when I first started exploring them, they would collapse my throat. And I don't know if I've told this story in the class before, but in 2009, I don't know, but I taught a workshop in LA with Andre Alexander, who's a Grammy Award-winning producer. He won Best Album with John Baptiste in 2023, I think, but he's one of my students. We taught a class in LA. It was sold out. It was great. And afterward, he at the time he was working with Kanye West. We didn't know about all of his views yet. We just thought he was just a musician. And so we didn't know yet. He was just great. We were excited at the time. But he was working with Kanye West. And so he was doing this kind of like a jam session, kind of like a cypher, like when rappers kind of freestyle, but he was doing it with singers. And I was like, oh, I want to sing. He's like, oh, Eric, your voice is very pretty, but they're gonna be like really singing. And at the time, to be fair, I was known as, she gives me love, 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 crazy love, gives me love, love, love. I was like, oh, Eric's the crooner, his voice is very pretty, it's like light. And so these people were using glottal compression. I was not used to that. Even singing in church, I didn't really sing like that growing up. And when I got to the hotel, after I attended the jam session with my feelings hurt, with my hurt feelings and my wounded pride, and it made me even more pissed to see that he was right. They were doing things that I couldn't do. They were wailing, and and when I got back to my hotel room, I was like, I can do that. And I could for like a half a minute, and then my throat started to hurt like a lot. And I realized I don't know how to do this. And so one of the keys that I'll give you that helped me out, I kept trying to mimic people who had been singing in Pentecostal and Kojic churches all their lives, who had well-developed musculature that I did not have. And so when I first started doing it, I couldn't start off with, I know I've been changed. Even though I had the coordination, I didn't have the strength. Strength can't be faked. I didn't have the strength to keep my body open. So it'd be, I know. Remember, if your body closes, your protection is gone. So we have to, I know I've been changed. I needed that, but I just didn't have that strength. It could not be faked. The other thing is, I just had to pull back. I know I've been changed. I had to be lighter, and I had to be a little bit headier. I had to just pull back. Again, I had to let my pride be wounded and let wisdom, take a hold of the wheel. But if I kept trying to, I see a lot of singers, they just try to lift heavier than they need. I don't know if you know anybody who's like gotten a hernia from weightlifting or torn a muscle from weightlifting, just from what they call like vanity lifting or just like ego lifting. They don't have cancer, they don't have a medical issue, they just tried to pick up weight that was too heavy for them in that moment. And I see a lot of singers will do that. And they'll, opera singers, musical theater, and I tell them all the time, your technique is excellent, your coordination is excellent, you just don't have the strength. A lot of people believe, I'm not accusing any particular one of you, but I want to vaccinate you right now. If you have in your mind that you just have to figure out the trick and it's going to work, you've already lost. It does not work like that. So figuring out the coordination is step one. Then through repetition, quality repetition, plus time, you build strength. The good news is your vocal folds have incredible muscle memory. And so the results can come pretty fast. If you're practicing well, it doesn't have to take years. And so do your respiratory muscles. The strength can happen pretty fast. Most people think of strength in terms of like what they can see aesthetically, but your muscles can strengthen pretty quickly. And also a lot of what we do is neuromuscular memory, so muscular reflexes. So if every few days you can be like, oh, I sound pretty great. So the results don't have to, you might grow for several years steadily, but you don't have to wait years to notice a difference. But I do want to encourage you to practice smartly. So listen to your body. Sometimes you just need to do less twang on that witchy voice, less groan on that vomitare, less volume, or less range. Maybe just go a little bit lower. Just don't go as high, So with that being said, I want to open it up to anybody who wants to volunteer to sing for me, whether it's for an exercise or a song, or if you just have a question, and I want to encourage you to just type me in the chat, or what about, oh, wait, let me go back. I mean, you can still put in the chat if you'd like to, but I saw, what about mucus? So, great question, Sam, great question. Is it okay if I call you Sam? Do you prefer Samuel? I don't want to mess that up because some people don't like to be called by nicknames. And so, okay, cool. So, because I have a lot of Michaels in my life, and my brother Mike loves Mike, and my best friend Mike prefers Michael. So, with that being said, what about mucus? If you have a cold or allergy stuff, I live in Atlanta, and allergies are assaulting my sinuses. So there can be mucus if you know you have a cold or something. But if you were otherwise totally normal before and mucus started when you started doing this stuff, you've irritated your vocal tract and your body's trying to defend itself. And so it doesn't mean you sound bad. I worked with an operatic soprano in New Orleans who had a fantastic voice, but she would have phlegm every time. And what we learned is she just wasn't supporting well. But she was one of those gifted singers who she could do wrong things and still sound great, but it was just tearing up her voice. So if you have sudden mucus and you weren't particularly, sinusy that day, or you're not having a cold, you might be overdoing it. You might need to engage a little more support or sing lighter, just building up that strength. So you might just be putting in too much chest voice. You might be doing too much volume. You might be doing too much grit. Maybe you're, maybe it needs to be, maybe it needs to just be a little lighter, And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you gotta like undo everything, but it could just be a little bit. So I see, just make sure I didn't miss anybody from earlier. I think everybody, Okay, so I think Philip was right after me. So Philip, question or singing, whichever one you choose. I'm gonna shut up and let you talk.
Hi, can I ask one quick question and then
Sure.
jump to singing? Yeah, so I heard you talk about lower voice types. I believe I'm a same voice type as you, like lower bass, kind of. So do you recommend maybe which voice is better for us? Because you say Krakatauria is more important for us, like that lighter part, or is it up to the taste?
It's really up to the taste. I like using both. I'm actually working on a recording project right now, and people are apparently very surprised at how chesty a lot of it is. Then I guess because I sing high a lot of my demonstrations, but I like using Vomitare. I will say this: if you are new, and this is for anybody else who might be listening, who might be in the same vocal family as us. By the way, welcome to the best voice type. No, but I do think Witch's voice is typically easier at first, and I do think and this can apply to anybody, some of you may not be low voice types, you might just be dramatic voice types with just thicker voices. So you may not be low per se, you just might have a bigger voice, a heavier voice. But if you're in the thicker voice type family like me and Philip, I do think that we typically, when we feel the restriction, we typically want to try to push and get more chestiness, and that's the total opposite of what we need to do. We typically do need to engage in more cricothyroid functioning to bring balance to our voice. So I do think that as an overall training therapy technique, we should do more like NG, Witch's voice, creaky sounds, squeaky, creaky sounds. I do think that in general, we should probably have a lot of that in our diet, vocal diet, to kind of counterbalance the inherent heaviness of our voices. But I do think that Vomitare is still an option for us. And for certain sounds, like the Teddy Pendergrasses and stuff and Anthony Hamilton's, these are lower, thicker voice vocalists. They're baritone-y, and they made use of it. So we definitely can. And the thing is too, we can always bridge into head voice, even at thicker coordination. So or into a mix, So so just showing you that I can go into the middle even as a low voice type, and so the glottal compression itself will imply chestiness even when I'm in a headier coordination, and so and same would be for you. So yes, hella twangy cricothyroid stuff would just be smart to have. But that doesn't preclude you from also doing Vomitare when you feel ready. Yeah.
Right, thanks.
No problem.
Is it okay if I sing a song in another language? Because I couldn't think of an English song.
No problem.
Okay. Dugo mi je trebalo da shvatim zašto boli me kada s drugim gledam te, a sanjam da si kraj mene, samo kad bi noćas moja bila, na sve bih pristao, grešio sam, sve sam priznao. Ti si anđeo, a ja sam slep što ništa nisam vidio, da si samo anđeo, zar ne znaš, jedino sam tebe volio. That's it.
First of all, how do you feel about that, what you just did?
How do I feel? Well, trying to focus on all the chakras and stuff. Probably a bit of a stage fright made me not do it perfectly, obviously, but I mean, I'm not like that unhappy. I've been practicing and following you like I think a year now, so I made huge progress. I sounded awful at the beginning. Now I think it's kind of okay-ish. So I would like to hear what you think. Like, do you hear some room for improvements? I hear it better when I record myself. Like, there's sometimes parts when I can see that I let go with the support and stuff. So I'm trying to make that better.
Okay, I think you sound good. I want to specifically focus on. Let's see if the da 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 da, and I don't know these words obviously. What language are you singing in?
It's Serbian.
Serbian. Okay, so I don't speak Serbian, so it's,
Yeah,
I'm gonna da 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 da, but you know
course.
what words I'm saying. So
Yeah.
so when we get there, two things I think are gonna help you a lot because you're doing a lot of right things. One thing is, and I literally teach chakra points, obviously, but when you're actually performing, I encourage you to just pick one place, le point magique, like one primary anchor point. And do you have a spot like either the solar plexus or the back that you personally feel more easily than another spot?
Well, I couldn't like find my favorite one, as you say. I heard you many times talk about that. I try to focus on the lights because that's what you recommend, and you say for heavier voices is it's better. So yeah, for
Okay,
for
good.
active support, yeah, I try to prefer lights.
Good. So here's the thing, and this goes for everybody. This would definitely apply to what we're talking about today. And some of you, sorry, I can't catch you fully up on the lats in this one class, but it is an advanced support technique. So I want you to try this. I believe you were open, but this is very common and everybody can learn from this. If you're going to have an anchor point, let it help you. So it's very common that someone will be open here and still da da da, but da 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 da. Can you do that part again with the
Yeah.
actual words, of course? But can you
Yeah.
think of singing into that space you're creating, and like your throat doesn't even exist? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to me to let go of the throat because now we talked about glottal compression, so I was trying to also think about
All right. Yeah.
the vocal cords and stuff. Yeah, I'll try to focus on the lights. Yeah. Ti si anđeo, a ja sam. Is that
Already, that's way better. Yeah. And so, how do we connect that to all the stuff we just said today? Because you might be like, okay, well, we spent a whole friggin' hour and a half on glottal compressions. How does that work? Can we do some medial glottal compression right quick without going super heavy? Can you just do the, I'm open, which I clearly you know how to do. So I'm primary, secondary, but I'm not letting this go. So I'm not switching from this to this. I'm focusing on this and this. So, can you, and then do it.
Ti si anđeo,
So here's the thing that's happening. It's getting a little too much here. We need a more active. Think of it like if this white towel is my diaphragm and fingers are the ribs. You're opening beautiful. Dun, 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 dun. It's getting a little slack, but can we? Da, 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 da. Can we still keep feeding it here? You're doing a good thing up here. We're just letting this go a little too much. One more time.
Yeah. Ti si anđeo.
Yes. I would pay to hear that. Yes. And so you want to just keep practicing that way until it becomes second nature. In the beginning, it might take a lot of mental concentration, but to me, that's like a perfect sound in terms of not just it sounding good and strong, but also healthy. I would not worry about you singing that way on a tour. And the first one, I don't think you sounded bad, but it was just imbalanced. And this is going to siphon your energy and eventually your vocal health. Could you feel the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. I also had a question about that because I'm trying to perform with my guitar, so my focus is usually all over the place, like guitar now, the vocal cords, the lats, the soft palate, blah blah. So when I'm performing, even with the guitar, my primary focus should be on the lats or the active support, right?
Yes. The only thing that I encourage people to focus on when they're performing is the lats. If they know how to do that. Sometimes it's the solar plexus, depending on the level that the student is at. But on stage is not the time to start thinking about your soft palate, your placement. That's not the time. I feel like that stuff should be happening. It should be so deeply ingrained into your body that it just happens automatically. You might be aware sometimes like, oh, the placement is going here. Okay. But the only thing that I think you should be intending is that openness in the back. Because if you don't have that, then the diaphragm and a lot of other musculature just can't perform its function. So that would be the only place. And like one of my students is Louis Cato, the band leader for the Late Show. And we've done a lot of work with him playing guitar and him trying to hold the guitar and just feeling. And with his posture, Avalada and also Monty Wells, who's more popular in the Netherlands as like a pop EDM musician. He also the guitar a lot. So we do a lot of like, let's find it with the guitar. I know Callie, you know, we have guitar players here, you know, and so we, you know, so part of your practice, I think, should be you holding the guitar and trying to do the stuff, just so you can get used to the feeling, but and how to make it all work together, how to integrate it so it doesn't feel like two separate things. But and I'm not a guitarist, but I know even with playing the piano, I had to kind of find, even as crappily as I play it, I had to kind of find like, okay, how does this work with this so that I don't feel like I'm doing this and this, but I'm doing it together, like instead of two separate warring things. But yeah,
Yeah.
so thank you for that. That was really good. I want to go on, but I'm gonna shut
Thank you.
up. Yeah, because I can go on
Thank you.
forever. But thank you, Philip. That was great. And yes, so Angel asked a question. Is there a warm, it's direct to me, so you all may not be able to see this, but is there a warm-up practice audio on Patreon good for building strength? Yes. And actually there's gonna be like a gospel practice thing I'm posting tomorrow. And even though it's gospel, it's using these techniques, you could apply it to anything. But I think it's literally called, it's power. Anything that is 3-tier is gonna be helpful, but there's a particular one that I really like that is particularly good. I can't remember always what I name things because I'm just trying to come up with stuff. If you just got if you just paid for this class, then you may not know this, but with the subscription, you can look at a library of audios that I have. I have 34 practice audios that you can just listen. Power and flexibility, and also active power and agility, and also powerhouse vocals. So those three. So they're really good. So I think, yeah, power and flexibility, which is on December 19th, I posted that. Active power and agility is very much in alignment with this. And powerhouse vocals, that's kind of like obvious, but those are like good practices. And of course, you can mix and match, do what works for you. When you work with me one-on-one, I tend to give you a special warm-up just for you, but I can't do that for like the thousands of people, you know, on the Patreon or whatever. So I try to give as many options as possible. And it's okay if those ones I mentioned, you're like, but I prefer the magic point practice, or I prefer the whatever, the ballerina voice. That's perfectly fine. Everybody's different. Please listen to your body. But in general, those aforementioned ones are really good for strength. Margie, yeah.
Hi, y'all.
Go ahead.
I've watched like your YouTube videos hundreds of times, and I'm a teacher, so this is super fun.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
I have either a Paul Simon song or a gospel song. I don't want to fall into imitating too much, so Paul Simon. Many the time I've been forsaken, and many times confused. Yes, and I've often felt forsaken, certainly misused, but I'm all right, can't be forever blessed. Hit me.
You sound amazing. We love a voice teacher who can really sing. You sound great. Yeah, how do you feel about that? Because I don't really know. To me, if I just heard you, I'm like, okay, she sounds great. I don't have any notes. What do you, it sounds really easy for you. Is there any particular thing that you wanted to explore with that? Or do you think you might want to do the gospel instead? Like what's going on?
I think I'm really interested in the juxtaposition of the cry and the groan. Actually.
Okay.
Because I think I fall into like a lot. And I get away with a lot with mix, but I feel like I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe try it more groan.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because the way you did it, I feel like I could make stuff up, but really that's kind of perfect, I guess. Like, so let's explore. Yeah, let's explore maybe a bit of a. And just for the record, I don't want to take up too much time with this, but Margie says something powerful about not to fall into imitating too much. I talk about this all the time, but when I first started classical singing, it felt so fake. I was like, this is not my voice. Like, whoa, what is that? When I first started gospel singing, it felt really fake. When I first started blues singing, it felt really fake. And so if it's coming out of your mouth, it's yours, you own it. And you might have to kind of explore and play with it to find which way feels really authentic to you, of course. But I encourage you to. I hear that a lot with exploring like gospel sounds, and I deeply relate. Where people, with people, even in the video I did on YouTube recently, a lot of people said like I didn't want it to seem like I was, caricaturizing or like, you know.
Well, there's that For Every Mountain song,
Okay.
and that I just learned how to imitate, and then I was like, well, what do I do with this?
So I love it. Let's apply it to the Paul. Let's apply it to the Paul Simon. Can I hear some groaning in the Paul Simon? Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
I get it.
Many the time I've been forsaken, and many times confused. Yes, and I've often felt forsaken. Suddenly misused. Oh, but I'm alright. Yeah.
I'm not mad at that. Two things, and I want to start off with the hut. Let's, especially for you, you don't need to hut as hard. Hut,
Okay.
hut. And I get it, because it's like a strong thing. We don't have, you just literally don't. Hut. We just need to do is it can be sharper and crisper. I don't mean pitch sharp, like crisper. Hut. Just enough to feel the build up. Hut. The effort, the magic is not in how strongly this goes for everyone. It's not in how strong it is, even though Margie can still make it work because she's just really good. I feel like a Disney. She's really good, but she is. But it's a bit of a waste of energy. So the point is to feel the buildup of pressure. Like my hut can almost be barely audible, and if you can just retain that pressure. What would that exploration be like? I'm going to shut up and let you explore that because I feel like your light bulbs are going.
Many the time I've been forsaken, and many times confused. Yes, and I've often felt forsaken, and suddenly used. Oh.
I feel like if this was a commercial, I'd want to put in small print, results not typical. Most people, Margie clearly has a strong background. Please be patient with yourself. Thank you. That was an excellent awakening that we just all witnessed because I could see the light bulbs go off and I could hear that. It sounded like you, just with more compression, more breath compression, more glottal compression. It didn't sound contrived in the slightest. I think you already had a lot of things working for you, so it was easy to make that connection. If it doesn't happen for you that quickly, people watching, please don't feel bad about that. I can't tell you how to feel, but don't let yourself be dismayed. It normally doesn't happen that quickly, although it obviously can, because it just did. But now the key would be, I would use the hut a few more times to build the pressure, and then the next step would be for you to see, how do I find this feeling without the hut? And so that would be just an exploration you would do on your own time to find that pressure. But I find that like, learning how to manage the buildup of pressure is one of the biggest hurdles that people face because, there's injury can happen if there's too much pressure in the wrong way. So learning how to manage pressure is really important. So as long as the pressure is held in places that can sustain it, like the chest wall and the sternum, which you did really well. I mean, solar plexus and sternum and chest wall, and you can still mix, you're golden. And typically you'll also notice your back, your glutes, other things are going to kick in, of course. But, the reason why I emphasize this part so much is that if you adduct the vocal folds well without the throat, there should be an automatic response to these places. I kind of think of it like a canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
And if you close the throat too much, will implode. And that kind of lets you know right off the bat whether or not you should proceed or not. Because for me, if I'm practicing, if I'm getting then I'm not even going to bother trying to sing that line. Nope. Then I know I can go from there. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was, you better sing. Okay, so good for you. That was wonderful. Yeah. So I'm gonna move on because it's so easy to go into like a full lesson with any one of you guys. But also, especially when I see stuff click for people, I just love that for you. I encourage you to just play. Think like a child. The concept is the technique, but there's all kind of nuance that you'll discover when I'm not yapping at you, and you'll be able to make connections with other stuff that you already know, and that's the magic. But Gordon, what you got?
All right, how's my audio?
Excellent.
Good? Okay. So, song is This Masquerade. I don't know if you ever heard this one. Um, are we really happy with this lonely game we play? Looking for what to say. Searching but not finding understanding anywhere. We're lost in a masquerade.
Yes, yes, yes. A lot of good things going on. Love your tone, love the openness. For the sake of this session, I want to do something that we haven't done yet.
Okay.
I want there to be more pressure, good kind of pressure.
Okay.
Not that. So, can we try this? Can you give me a zzz, as in zebra, just a zzz sound, any pitch, I don't care what it is. So good. I was gonna say zud, that's weird, but good. Can you feel as you z, zzz, zzz, zzz,
Yes.
that can activate stuff?
Yeah, I think this might be tired from doing the exercise.
Fair. That's fair. Fair enough. Can you also bring your awareness to your back muscles and see if you can feel any kind of back muscle activation, anything back there igniting?
Yeah.
Good, 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 good. So it's going to be a final stretch to the marathon of today. But zzz, and for everybody, when you use a zzz, don't let it open because people go za 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 za. Keep it zzz, keep the electricity in it. That's not technical accurate, but zzz, keep the zzz, zzz. So I'm going to shut up and let Gordon zzz through it. If I can hear how great your voice is, then it's wrong. So keep it buzzy. I'm going to shut up and let you do it with the zzz.
Is that what you meant, or?
Yeah,
Sing
it's
song.
cutting off a little bit, but that's fine. The number one thing is, I'm sure you know understand what a Z sounds like. Can you feel consistently? Because I'm giving you a lot to think about, and everybody's looking at you, so I'm gonna make sure we're focused on the right things. As you're Zing, because of course you can do these notes. This song sounds really easy for you. Can you feel the consistent pressure in your body as you do it on every single note? Zzz.
Are we really happy with this lonely game we play?
So wait, I'm gonna pause you here. So the first, are we really happy? I feel like that was really good. And then with this lonely game, I feel like we're losing some of the compression. Can we
Okay.
zzz, can we willfully give it more from this place as you get to that second line?
Are we really happy with this lonely game we play?
Yes, that to me, that's a subtle but significant difference in how your audience will take it. You sounded good the first time, but just this compression here, it naturally implies an emotional intent. You could be thinking about what you want for dinner later, but but they'll be like, oh wow, he's really into it. You know, you could be thinking about whether or not you're gonna get a ticket for you parked your car at the venue. But if you're connected here, with this lonely game we play, instead of with this lonely game we play, it was so relaxed before. If we're too relaxed, guys, people read that as insincere or even apathetic depending on the delivery. So if we're too relaxed in our openness, it's hard for people to believe you. And because regular people often don't know how to verbalize it, they'll say things like, oh, it's pitchy, and no, it's not. Or they say like, oh, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know. They say demoralizing things because they don't know how to put their finger on it. They just know that something's missing. And that thing that's often missing is compression, either breath compression or glottal compression. And so a lot of my job in the studio when I'm coaching sessions with people like Gordon is the producer might be like, oh, I don't feel it, man. It's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with that? You know, like, what am I supposed to do with that? And often I'll say, can I touch you? Because I will never just grab somebody without asking. And I'll press and I'll say, Gordon, fight me. And I don't mean swing, but I mean, Are we really happy? I want you to really work from this place to the point where you might feel like, whoa, whoa, but everybody will be like, yay, when it's over. So don't be afraid to
Okay.
like put in that extra work, even on parts that are relatively easy for you to sing, because this is not hard for you range wise, but you
Right.
can give
I
extra
lowered the key. Yeah. I put
Yeah,
it down. I moved it from F minor to D minor.
which
So,
you no judgment here. Like, no, yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine for my bass baritone stuff. Hey, thank you but yeah, and also if you can feel your back muscles. I don't know if you how I don't know what your background, but if you're familiar enough to have that F feeling, if you can flex them deliberately, that would add a lot of because you have a large voice, which is a good thing. It's powerful and rich, but we need typically a little more muscular effort to mobilize it. So can you try some
yeah.
back flexing as you do that? Let's see what happens
So less Dean Martin, more James Brown.
there. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Where's my pitch? Thoughts of leaving disappear every time I see your smile. No matter how hard I try.
I think you've got it. I saw some expressions when you watch back the video. I hope you're able to see the expressions of the people. Yeah, I think that the audience approves. There's a significant difference. Even you brought in a little more glottal compression. It seems like pretty
Yeah.
organically. Yeah.
Well, and hopefully this is helpful for other people. I want to be able to switch from the classic Frank Sinatra sound to adding a lot more soul. I know Marvin Gaye did it. You said you did it. So that's one thing that I'm trying to learn how to do without damaging my voice.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And part of it is just how much we abduct the folds. Because as you
Mhm.
mentioned, like Sinatra-esque and all these people, like the
Yeah.
fly me to the moon and let me
Yeah.
play among the stars. Let me see what
Yeah.
spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. That's more of the ha 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 ha, ha, that kind of lighter reduction we talked about in the very beginning. But the fly me, it's that. But remember, to whatever degree we press the chords more, we have to give more from the body to counterbalance that. And so we really, it's very important for, like you said, for the safety of your voice. 'Cause I don't want you to lose the open quality. Because I'm someone, sometimes I want to be, if I loved you time and again, I would try to say all that I want you to know. If I love, sometimes I want to sing carousel, and sometimes I want to sing a rock song, or sometimes I want to do a gospel. I want to be free. And so most artists I know don't want to be self pigeonholed. Like, you want to do whatever the hell you want to do. It's all music to us. Most of us, we kind of
Yeah.
like a little bit of everything. And
Yep.
so yeah, so the grounding is so much where the safety lives. And I think I saw that clicking earlier too. If we have the space here and it's not passive, I'm working for it. If I have this space, I'm protected. If this is going away, if I'm shrinking I'll be really happy here. That's gonna cause problems, but I'll be
High
really
heels, is that what they call it?
happy if I have that space, that push out,
Yeah.
that's gonna. And I'm gesturing at the sides. A lot of that's in my back, though, the power of that. But I have a towel here because teaching stuff like this and all, it's very muscular, to not throw my voice around like really crazily. So as long as you have that, you're safe. But I think you're on the right track. I think
Okay.
you're doing a lot of good things. I want to squeeze one more in. I know we're over time. If you have to go, I will not take offense. I'm gonna give John a chance. So wherever, if you're still here, I see John is next.
Hey,
Hey,
thanks. Yeah, so I'm a rock singer and also a metal vocalist, and so I'm trying to get more of a unique sound with more of that type soul feel to it.
awesome.
I'm noticing that when I'm doing it a little bit more in my chest and mixed voice, it seems to come pretty easy. I'm used to that kind of compression. So there's let me see, like um I'll bring my heartfelt, been through hell, hallelujah. Whoa, I'll bring that storm-tossed, torn self, been through hell, hallelujah.
I love, what's so funny? One of my students,
Mhm.
is working on this song. And so
Okay.
that's, but this is easy. You're gonna be easy. You already understand the glottal compression. Similar to what happened with Philip, I think what would really help to open that up, if right now the anchoring is largely happening around the larynx, I'll
Yeah.
bring my heart, and you sound good, but I'll bring my heart felt. If we can get more here, it's gonna open it up, and we'll hear a big part of the thumbprint uniqueness of the voice is revealed just through internal space. So the less internal space we have, the more we sound like it's like kind of smushed, and so we get a more homogeneous sound. But if we can just open up more, how familiar are you with the concept of like flexing the back muscles, like with the F kind of, or just flexing the muscles independently of the breath? Is that something familiar to you?
Yeah, kind of just opening up sort of like a balloon back there.
Yeah, but not with breath, because I want to make this clear for everybody, because there's a breathing open,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a flexing with muscle effort. And I'm doing this while talking just to indicate that I'm doing this independently of the breath. I'm not breathing for this, although that is a weird feeling, so I'm going to stop. But can you find that you can just flex it with muscular effort, not with breathing? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I could just hold it open, inhale, exhale, whichever, just keep it there.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool. So if I was with you in person, I would press and I would want you to fight me. So I don't want you to just open. I want you to actively press out. And this throws people off sometimes because they're like, well, how much more open could I be? There is a limit to how much we can open. Obviously, you're not going to rip yourself in half. But when you're singing powerfully like this, breath is leaving you. And a normal person wants to collapse. I'll bring my heart. And so we have to, I'll bring my heart down, 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 hallelujah. We have to keep going. And so from here though, not from up here. So can I hear that done as if you were singing into the space created by your open lat, singing into the sides and back of your body, if you can flex and still singing the same, but giving a lot of effort into the musculature in your back.
Sure. All right. And I'll bring my heartfelt, been through hell, hallelujah.
I already think that sounds better and healthier.
Uh-huh.
And I would explore that. And I have you might already be familiar with this, I don't know your life, but I have a lot of content on Patreon about just refining our ability to use the lats. Because I do the cut my life into pieces, this is my, and those kind of songs because somebody literally requested that. And I prefer your song, but it's the same kind of approach. And so, but the key is when you're using that kind of glottal compression, the number one thing, because I've worked with some people may not know who these people are, but Garrett Rapp, who's a vocalist who sings a lot of intensity, and also David Corey, who does what he calls urban rock, who did the FIFA Cup song like a few years ago. But they tell people that I taught them how to scream, and that's not exactly true. I taught them how to keep, like John, they came to me kind of already knowing what the hell they were doing. I just taught them how not to destroy their voices. And so, and a big thing is we need to actively open that space as we sing, and it's quite athletic. Not to make the sound, but to preserve it and to give it more luster and openness, because the pharyngeal space largely reflects the rib space. And if your ribs are closing, then you're going to lose protection. You might still sound amazing, you're a talented person, but the voice wouldn't last. And so I'm always thinking from a place of, will the voice last on like a 30-city tour or whatever? And so I think the latter one you did, I'd be like, okay, he's good. He could, like, your back might be sore as hell, but your voice would be fine. And so, and we can deal with that. But yeah, I would give more attention to that actively expanding with muscular effort, not breath. I mean, still breathe. I mean, be a human and breathe. But as you're actually singing, there's a very real muscle flex. Thoughts, questions about that? Because I know I just do a lot at you. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I find that does help quite a bit. So this song really kind of fits into my mixed range. There's some that I've been trying that go a little bit more into my head voice. And when you were talking about, the difference between like the grunt and the you call it the witch's voice. So I guess when I'm doing these that are more in my chesty mix area, using that grunt type sound works. When I do the ones that go into my higher register, doing the witch voice, I'm not sure if I'm quite getting it correctly, or maybe it's just something that still needs developed. You want to kind of hear what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, can I hear it? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, you are there to lift me up, to mend my
It muted, and sorry, I could not. I think it peaked for the for Zoom's. Zoom cannot handle your vocal might. I need to make sure I send out to everybody how to adjust these Zoom settings specifically for these classes. But it sounded like. Did you go up to like a B? Where did you go? I'm sorry. Could you do that maybe a little
Yeah,
softer so Zoom can handle it?
sure,
Yeah.
yeah. To mend my to mend
So here we go. This goes for everybody, especially if you're a dude. Not only, but especially. When we go into head voice, head voice creates a natural phonatory gap, and so it feels light. And it will feel like you don't have to work as hard from your body. That is a body illusion. Your throat's gonna close up. We need anchoring. So headier tones are more easily produced because we're using less of the vocal fold tissue. But because of the inherent opening up the folds where air can go through, we lose stability and we lose oomph. And we typically, as men, instinctively squeeze and pinch, and we make the tones smaller. So we have to learn how to resist the urge. Just like having an itch you really want to scratch. Like if you ever had chicken pox, like don't scratch. It's like I really want to squeeze it. We can't. Don't. But let the lats work harder. And don't like let the throat do as much. So can you try that again with more lattishness in the and it's gonna feel in a way unnecessary because you don't need your lats to make these sounds, but you absolutely do to make them bloom. So I'm gonna shut up and let you try that again with more lat focus up there. Yeah.
Okay. To mend my to mend my
Zoom cut you off, but I think you were on the right track. Let me ask you though, can you feel yes, no kind of what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I did. It felt a little bit easier and it felt a little bit smoother that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, 'cause I think it's going to be really easy for you, like I said, because your vocal cord, vocal fold coordination wise, you're doing good things, and so whatever around there, thereabouts. Um, if we can just let it go and feed it from this place, if we can open harder, than if we think less forward thrust and more actively widen. I'm going to share with you this picture again from my book. You guys are getting some sneak peeks. I did some rough there's anatomical stuff, but I did some expressionistic little illustrations that I feel like kind of capture energetically how I perceive things. This is a quote from Jean Dorest, the first famous singer ever, first famous recording artist. Imagine yourself to be a great church bell where all the sonority is round the rim. And so you see this kind of person here with this church bell emblem on there. We want to think of ringing inside the bell in the sides and back of the rib cage, and then this kind of all coming out of here. He was a baritone who turned himself into a famous tenor, which is crazy. All of his students went on to great fame as well. And so it's hard to find recordings because he recorded back when recording happened on like cylinders, and so it sounds like he's underwater in a subway station. But by all accounts, he had this incredibly powerful voice, and he would sing. He would open up, and then you sing into the rim and of his rib cage. And so if you think of this, especially because you're another powerful voiced person, it makes no sense really anatomically because we know where the larynx is, we know where the vocal tract is, we know how resonance works. But I encourage you to intend your sound, even your heady singing, into the ever firming musculature of the sides and back of your rib cage in particular, because in the front it slopes up, Costa arch. But we want to think of singing into the rim of the bell, so you open it up, and that's where you and you sing it into that place. But if you bring your mental awareness to your throat, you're going to collapse it because your voice is very strong. I think your chords are actually very strong and healthy. It's just that they're being smushed. And so you want to think of flexing more. So it's going to be a letting go. It's going to be a bit of a new sensory experience, but I think that it's going to be really easy for you because you're right there. So we just have to like let it. If you love it, set it free or like whatever. But yeah,
Sure, yeah. Yeah, a lot of the technique that I've done, I feel like I've been very throat focused. And so moving that awareness into the body, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share this with you guys as we wrap up. My first two teachers were speech level singing technique teachers, proteges of Seth Riggs, and I was taught an extremely laryngeal focused technique. And my voice was clear but small. And growing up in a place like New Orleans, where blues singers and gospel singers and incredible singers were all over the place. I had friends in high school who were getting nominated for Grammys as jazz singers and stuff, which is crazy. I remember saying like, they're doing something I'm not doing. And then when I got into the musical theater world, what kept coming up was this idea of body connection. And I met people who studied a Still method. If you're familiar with Joe Still, she was all about different anchors in the body. And I met masters of this. But this work, a lot of today's class was on glottal compression. But remember, in order for this to be sustainable, we have to embrace the athleticism of the lats and the solar plexus. And for those of you who are more advanced, if you're working your lats, chances are the solar plexus is working automatically. But check for that. There should be a forward thrusting of the. So I look at this as like the stabilizer and the opener, and this is the compressor and like this is the punch forward, and this is what lets us feel like. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. It's what lets us feel like we can control things, but this is what step into the dark side, listen now. That's what makes us feel like we can just thrust it forward. And so, wherever, but you get the idea. But play with this stuff, play with it in small doses, take breaks if you need to. Just like if you were learning skateboard tricks or bicycle tricks, if you fall and scrape your knee, you're not dead. If you go too far, just give yourself a day or two to rest. Don't bludgeon your voice into oblivion. It's okay to pull back and lift lighter if this is new to you. If you're more experienced like John and some of the other people who demonstrated, then yeah, but use your common sense. And so listen to your body. This recording will be up later, and there will also be a practice audio up tomorrow. I wanted to do this class first, and I'm glad I did because I'm already going to adjust the audio based on some of what came up in the class to make it even more helpful. But this was great, guys. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. This was wonderful. I'm going to shut up because I can talk forever. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.